So today's advice is to learn software development without writing code. So what you will find is that most people focus on software development, and I'd say probably 99%, to be honest, of people that focus on software development focus on one little thing, which is really small, and it's to learn the language, to learn the tools, to learn the frameworks. And well, not so much the frameworks, but more, the language and the code and how it compiles and what the ifs, the else, the fors, all the different things in code do. Writing the code. And really, what a lot of the software development as a whole is not necessarily just the writing of code. It's more the principles. It's more the understanding of what software should do. So software is primarily there for problem solving and to make computers work for us, to make our lives easier, as well as for entertainment and many other things. But in general, software is usually there to solve a problem. So when I say learn code without writing code, learn software without writing, code, it's more about don't focus always on just the code. Think about problem solving in general, how you would solve problems. And this also goes back to one of my other advices, which is to do things outside of just software. And those problems that you solve outside of software may help you inside of software. And vice versa, you might solve a problem in software that helps you solve a problem elsewhere in life. But in general, it's more about learning things outside of just the code. Learn about problem solving, maybe learn about some math equations, learn how scientists solve certain problems. Buy magazines like New Scientist and just read the articles, because they contain real interesting articles about people that have solved, parts of cancer, or thinking outside of the box of how other problems were solved. And I'd say really the focus outside of code is mostly problem solving, but there are, many other areas. But I think if you learn how to solve problems, that's most of what you do in life. You're going through life solving problems. You're getting older, you're trying to look younger. You've got less money, you're trying to earn more money. You want a better job, you're trying to figure out how to get a better job. You're learning software to do things. Everything you do in life really is about solving problems. It's just you don't realize it. So I'd say if you can learn to think about what the purpose of software is without being bogged down in the detail of just trying to write the code, when you come to do the code, that's then nothing more than implementing your ideas. The things you now want to solve, you've figured out how you want to solve them. You know that you need to do this or that, or you've found the constraints. You've made the analysis of what needs to be done, but you don't know how to do it yet. And then you apply learning the code to allow you to do those things. But you don't start off by just learning the code and not understanding a problem in the first place. So, learn to solve problems, learn things outside of code, learn the principles of software, not always just pure hardcore code. And some people, this won't make much sense, because it's just, they'll be saying, well, what do I want to learn? Solve what problem? That type of thing. But to many of you, hopefully this should kind of make sense that software isn't always about the code. And when, say you get to my level where writing code is not really about the code itself, I don't think I've got a problem to solve. I do not think, I'm going to use C#, I need to use this framework, I need to use that. Those are all just, they are what they are. I'll pick whatever I need to solve a problem. I don't have a fixed thing in my head that says I need to use this, because they are no challenge to me. It's more about, right, this is the problem, let's look at it. What are you trying to solve in the real world? What is your end goal? What are the alternatives? How much play do we have to change behavior or change expected delivery? And then I'll look at, right, so you need to achieve this, and this is what we need to do. Not in the level of code, in the simple level of expectation. So say we want to, take a phone screen and share it to 20 people in a room. So I've got to look at that as, right, so we need a phone. Do you need to use a set phone? Can you route the phone? Has it got to work across iOS and Android and Windows Phone and any other ones, or can we just use a set one? Can we control that environment? Is it a single phone that we can set up as a developer? And I start to assess all these variables, if you will, to allow me then to make a decision that if I can route an Android phone and I can control the environment, then I can use certain tools and techniques to solve that problem. Whereas if I know this has to work as mass market for a product, and it's got to work across everything across the board, I know that I've got to look at the limitations of each device and find out a shared limitation that then sets the baseline of what we can achieve and make those assumptions. So this all goes on. Project managers and software will probably handle things like this. But basically, it's about assessing those requirements to then allow you to go, right, here's my spec of what I need to achieve, and I fully understand my limits. Now I can apply this to code, and now I can pick what I need to achieve in code and solve that. Whereas if you're just doing the software and you're unaware of any requirements, or you're just being told, right, capture me a screen on a phone. Now, as a developer, you'll try and figure out, right, how do I capture the screen? And you'll focus on Googling and looking for answers and figuring out how to capture a screen on a phone. But you've never stepped back and asked any questions about why, how, is it as, can we use it on any phone, or has it got to work on all of them? Can we root the phone? You've never thought outside of the code itself. Whereas, as a whole, you should be thinking, even if it's not your job, you should ask those questions to get a broader feel for what you're trying to achieve, and you understand where you can then bend the rules and where you can make different decisions and where you might be able to change